WBAP, welcome back to the big show. Well, the big story today is definitely the big, beautiful bill. It passes its next hurdle in the Senate. And while it's not a done deal, this was probably the more difficult of the two houses to get through. And we'll see how this shakes out in the reconciliation process. That's what they call it when the House has passed a version of a bill and the Senate has passed a version of the bill, but they're not the exact same. So they have to go to a conference committee, try and hack out a version where at least 50% of both houses will vote for whatever is a mixture of both bills. So it's probably going to happen. It's not a 100%, but it's probably going to happen. Now, there's a lot of people, including Elon Musk, who find this enterprise completely disappointing because it doesn't do anything to balance the budget. Not only does it not balance the budget, it doesn't even reduce the deficit. Not only does it not even reduce the deficit, it raises the deficit. And so for those of us who call ourselves fiscal conservatives, this is not a good bill. If you still support this anyway, well, then you are abandoning your fiscal conservatism. And look, there's some other stuff in the bill that a lot of conservatives like, or people who tend to support Team Red. They say it locks down the border. Well, the border's already locked down. So don't let that be the excuse that people are using to sell you on this. Remember, we just proved that it didn't take any new legislation or laws or change in policies to shut down the border. It just took the will of the executive to actually enforce the laws that are already on the book. So I don't buy that. But the tax cuts are a good thing. I'm not going to lie with you there. That's probably the thing that affects you the most. Now, this is being sold by the people who voted against it on Team Blue as this is tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. Well, yeah, it's tax breaks for everyone else that pays taxes too. Everyone's taxes were going to go up. Of course, a disproportionate amount of the tax cuts will be beneficial to people who make over $1 million a year. My goodness, especially when you have 40% of the country, even though they worked, still don't pay into the system. So, duh. But that's good. I like the no tax on tips. I like the no tax on overtime. That's pretty good. Extending the tax cuts from 2017, definitely good. But we didn't really touch social programs. They kind of nibbled at the edges with work requirements on Medicaid and SNAP, with food stamps. We call them SNAP now. I guess that sounds better. But for me, it's not enough. My preference, balance the budget. My compromise where I'm willing to meet you in the middle is we reduce the annual deficit. This doesn't even do that. Remember, the spending levels that we are surfing on right now is the Biden spending levels. There's the spending levels that jumped way up during COVID, and then they only backed off a little bit, and we're still running a $2 trillion a year deficit because we managed to retain a lot of that spending, even though we're no longer in an emergency 5 years later. So we can't even cut that. We can't even get back to the baseline that we had before the air quote emergency spending under COVID, even though we're 5 years after discovering all those fallacies. And then we have the Republicans come in, and they're going to add over $200 billion to the deficit next year, in the first year. It's going to be over $3 trillion in the final year that it's been scored. So no, I don't support the big, beautiful bill. I'm scared to say that because I know a lot of people are going to think ill of me for not agreeing with the president. But this is one place where I disagree. I want a balanced budget. I want a smaller government. And this drives me absolutely insane how all my friends and people who listen to this show and people who send me emails and comment on social media, how many of them will say they want a limited government but won't ever put their foot down on government growth? You have the Team Blue that drives me and you nuts all the time. It's a threat to democracy. Oh, he's a threat to democracy. We're just concerned about democracy. Democracy this, democracy that. Isn't it a big threat to democracy that the voters never get to go to the ballot box and vote for someone who wants a smaller government? Isn't the real threat to democracy that whoever you vote for, government's going to get bigger and more powerful, and they're going to spend more money, and they're going to accumulate more power into the hands of the elites? And there's no party, either party, that goes against that. Isn't that a bigger threat to democracy than ICE agents wearing a mask or someone have to show a voter ID? So I'm sorry. I hope you don't hate me for this. I know you probably disagree, but I'm Rand Paul in this one. I think he the only. Well, he's the only guy in the Senate that voted against it because it's not fiscally conservative enough. Of course, all the Democrats, they didn't like the spending cuts and they didn't like the tax cuts. But it's not really a spending cut. It's a spending increase. The Democrats just want even more. They don't think that's big enough. That's insane. That is absolutely bonkers. If you voted against this bill because it's too fiscally conservative, you're off the plantation. You're up in Mars. You're not even playing a real game. Are you on mushrooms? Raising the annual deficit by $270 billion next year. That's tightening the purse too much. Okay, so y'all are crazy people. Republicans are supposed to be the sane ones that at least want to tap the brakes on the growth of government. Ideally, you'd think they would want to turn this car around and shrink the size of government, but it doesn't. So it's probably going to go through. And look, I lost again. I got it. I'm not going to get my way on this. We're not going to stop growing government. We're not going to pause it. We're definitely not going to reverse it. So let's deal with the facts as we have them. How is this going to affect your money? Because, this will affect your money. Spencer McGowan of Net Worth Radio is going to come in on the next segment and give me a little assist and finding out if the big, beautiful bill goes through as it's written down right now. How will this affect your money? That's coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So the big, beautiful bill barely squeaks through the Senate. It was a 50-50 vote. J.D. Vance has to come out and break the tie. So that's kind of a rare, semi-historic moment.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
All right, so now let's get down to brass tacks. How will this affect your money? Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio. You can hear him Saturdays at 4 o'clock here on WBAP. Welcome to the James Show yet again. And look, let's take a dispassionate, non-political approach to this. How will the big, beautiful bill affect the person listening? And I assume that you're talking about the tax rates from the 2017 Jobs Act would sunset, and everyone would have to bring home a little bit less money starting on January 1st of next year. Is that what this is based on? Yeah. Well, I'm glad you bring that up because that belies the point. Some of the criticism when the tax cuts were passed back at the end of 2017, when people were saying this was just for millionaires and billionaires. No, it took the average family and raised their standard of living by about 5%, and so that's what we were just maintaining by keeping the tax cuts or the tax rates where they're at now. But we added some new tax cuts. We got rid of taxes on tips. Is there still no tax on overtime? No tax on Social Security? How'd that work out? Right. That'd be nice. I'd switch real quick. What a coincidence. Right. Oh, I get it. I get it. All right, we're talking with Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio. You can hear him Saturdays at 4 or McGowan Wealth Group. I think the big news out of this, it's not being heralded by Fox News, Fox Business, MSNBC, or CNN because it doesn't fit any of their narratives. And I think the number one impact for the person listening to us right now, Spencer, is going to be inflation. If we're still going to have $2 trillion deficits every year, that means they're going to have to print that or somehow monetize that debt, add to the currency pool, and that how over the last 5 years we've gotten a 25% pay cut. I think we can expect that over the next 5 years because of these deficits. Wait, so Spencer, are you telling me that they have to send a rescission package because the funding for NPR and PBS is still in the budget, and a lot of these other Doge cuts are still in the budget? All right, I find that quite disappointing. As a money manager, should the people listening be make any moves here? I would love to hear more of that. What's coming up on Net Worth Radio this weekend, Spencer? Right. Love it. Well, you're going to have something to talk about because we have the big jobs number coming out. Isn't it this Friday where we'll get the jobs number for June, and they'll sort of wrap up the second quarter, and we'll have a lot to talk about. I'll be listening in. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the James Show yet again. This is Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio or the McGowan Wealth Group. You can listen to his show Saturdays 4 p.m. here on WBAP. Coming up on the James Show, Team Elon is starting to float the idea of starting a third party. Team Trump doesn't seem to like that idea very much. Where do you stand? I'll tell you where I stand coming up next. 800 288 9227. 800 288 9227. This is The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. The big beautiful bill passes through the Senate, headed to the Reconciliation Committee. And look, whatever we have now, from my observation, this is probably something very close to this is going to be the law of the land as soon as we get through the conference committee process. A lot of people don't like it, myself included. Now, my problems with the bill, let me go ahead and tell you what I like about the bill first. I like the extension of the tax cuts. That's fantastic. That helps everybody. Good. I'm very pro that. I like some of the provisions they have with border security, although I don't find that to be terribly important, seeing as how we've already shut down the border just by enforcing the laws that we already had on the books. So I'm not too sure that if that's even necessary, but I do like it. I do like the ending of tips for certain incomes, like the taxes on tips and taxes on Social Security and taxes on overtime. I believe are all repealed with this up to a certain limit. But I can go ahead and tell you what I don't like. I don't like that it grows government. I don't like that it not only does it not balance the budget, not only does it not decrease the annual deficit, it raises it. The annual deficit by $270 billion just next year. So no. You can call me stubborn. I think a better word for it is principled. I don't support any bill that grows government. I just can't do it. And I am floored to see once again how many of my friends who call themselves conservatives or say they want a smaller government or say they want limited government falling all over themselves to support this. Now, I'm not surprised if you reluctantly support this. I'm not surprised if you're like, yeah, well, I hate the growth of government, but I'd rather lock in these tax cuts and some of these other bills or parts of the bill I find are more important than balancing the budget. Cool. We can have that conversation. But this full-throated support where if you don't support this bill, then you're not on our team anymore. That's ridiculous. I am just standing up for the principles that you've campaigned on and you voted for and Trump campaigned on and voted for. Did any Republican get into office saying, I want to grow government, or did all of them say, I want to trim the government? I want to rein in the government. This doesn't do that. Now, for those of you who are just wanting Trump to get a win, you probably like this. This probably makes you happy. For those of you who just want government to be smaller, for the love of God, in our entire lives, can we get government to be smaller? Disappointed yet again. Lucy with the football. And the painful part of this is it's not that you necessarily even voted wrong. It's that both parties agree. We just need to keep growing government. So Elon Musk did a post right after the James Show was over yesterday on his platform X, where he says, if this insane spending bill passes, the America Party will be formed the next day. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty so that people actually have a voice. So that started a fun little discussion over whether or not we should have a new political party. There's Kalshi. They do betting odds. And just since they put up their poll last night, the odds of Elon Musk creating a new political party in 2025 is up to 41%. So Elon has also continued talking about the politicians who said they wanted limited government. They said they wanted conservative principles. They said they wanted to get our fiscal house in order. They went up to D.C. and they voted for this bill. Elon's talking to them in this next tweet. He says, anyone who campaigned on the promise of reducing spending but continues to vote for the biggest debt ceiling increase in history will see their face on this poster in the primary next year. And it's a liar, liar, pants on fire poster. So he's going to what? Primary out everyone in the Senate but Rand Paul? I think so. That's what he just said. He has the money to do it. This should get interesting because I've whined about this on the radio for, it'll be 23 years next month. And it doesn't really matter, does it? Me having an opinion and barking it in this microphone and trying to do it in an entertaining manner without running you off, even if you disagree with me, hasn't done anything to reduce the debt or the deficit or get anyone's fiscal house in order. But it means something different when Elon Musk says it. James Parker says it, whoop-de-doo. Elon Musk says it, you better pay attention. because he's finally noticing something that a lot of you have noticed, and I hear this from listeners all the time, is the fact that there's just one uniparty in reality. They pretend to be two parties on the very important issues, whether or not we get into forever wars or constantly bombing other countries or spend way too much, more than we take in, or we have to print money and cause inflation. They all agree on those, the super most important things that they do. They agree on that. What do they disagree on? Just regular old moral panic stuff. Abortion, men and women's sports, things that don't crumble empires. This crumbles empires. You understand why I'm concerned about this? It's not because I'm a butthead or I want poor people to starve or I want the people who are less fortunate to have their health care ripped from them. No, I care about this is because this is how empires collapse. On the micro level, we all understand, how does this tax code affect me? How does trimming this entitlement affect other people? But in the macro level, this is how societies are driven into the ground. It's by terrible economics, usually. Not all the time, but more often than not. Because think of what's happened in your lifetime. When you were growing up, we had a co-equal superpower to the United States. It was called the Soviet Union. Did the Soviet Union collapse because they didn't have a Golden Dome missile defense and they had a bunch of missiles rain down on them? Did an invading army knock them over militarily? No, they had a fiscal collapse. They couldn't pay their bills anymore, and so they couldn't get the services anymore. You inflate your currency to a place where it's unsustainable. It's the same thing that you saw happen to Venezuela. How did Venezuela collapse? Did they not have a golden dome and there was missiles that were rained down upon them? Were they invaded by a foreign army? Or did they embrace this ridiculous entitlement spending downward spiral where they promise everyone a free lunch, they print money to get it, and then you just go down the spiral until you're eating your zoo animals? Roman Empire, Ottoman Empire, Spanish Empire, all economic collapses. And for you people who seem to be so concerned about national security, well, we've got to keep giving all kinds of weapons to Ukraine and bombing the snot out of Russia. We got to bomb the snot out of Iran. We got to bomb the snot out of Gaza. We got to bomb the snot out of Houthi rebels in Yemen and Syria and all over the place. No, this is the real economic collapse. This is what's threatening our national security far more than some Houthi rebel in Yemen. So no, that's why I'm against this. I cannot support this. It doesn't even give a head fake toward balancing the budget or trimming the size of government at all. And then next, we have some more big economic news coming up tomorrow. Trump has a new tariff deadline that expires tomorrow. We could see the return of a bunch of huge tariffs on a bunch of big trading partners. How could that affect your money? We'll talk about that next on The James Show with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law, PLLC, on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Getting lost in the shuffle, today's big, beautiful bill news is the fact that there's a looming trade deadline for tomorrow. Michelle Schultz is coming back on from Schultz Trade Law. And who all's on the facing the firing squad here as far as the tariff threats, Michelle? And you're right. I said that wrong. It's not tomorrow. It's a week from tomorrow before the smaller trade deals are supposed to be finalized with other countries. So there, are we looking at mostly European countries here, or is India rolled into this one? So we're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. How are we doing with Canada? They were doing some sort of digital service tax, so we backed off the trade talks. Trade talks are back on. Are we getting along with these guys or not? So, how are things going with China? We announced that we had a trade deal done. I still haven't seen it. Has anyone seen it? Well, what does he mean by that? Michelle Schultz, you seem to know a level of depth there. When he says, I'm going to send them a letter, that sounds like something that has some sort of legal significance. To the rest of us, it sounds like he's just typing off an email. So what's the letter mean? How do you think it's going so far? It seems like he's been able to work out a few trade deals by using tariffs as a pain point. Are we going to get similar results out of these other people who are resisting? We're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. You guys actually have a tariff tracker on your website, schultztradelaw.com, which has the reciprocal tariff percent, the effective date when it's going to be slapped on. And there's a lot of July 9ths on your tariff tracker. This is pretty cool. You'll have all the countries and what the tariff situation is for them. That's going to be some. I'm going to bookmark this and check in on it in about a week and a half. It might look drastically different, but good stuff. We appreciate you being on the James Show. This is Michelle Schultz, schultztradelaw.com. Thank you. Yeah, and the tariff tracker, if you go to schultztradelaw.com, at the very top under the menu, it says tariff tracker. You click through to that, and then it's 7 pages of all the countries in the world. And you can see what the tariff situation is with them. A lot of them are just sitting at 15. You can see a lot of them just hanging out on 15 until next Wednesday. But coming up next on the James Show, I want to take an informal poll of WBAP listeners. What would it take for you to support Elon's America Party if it does happen over the Republicans? What would have to be different about the America Party? Or is your allegiance to the Republican Party unshakable no matter what the America Party does? But I want to hear what it would take to change your allegiance. Democrats, you're welcome to answer this too. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll give you my short list next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM. WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Yeah, let's go. Because this big, beautiful bill passed in the Senate crossed the Rubicon for Elon Musk. He says if this bill becomes law, he's going to start the American Party the next day, which a third party that seems to be predicated on balancing the budget or at least cutting the size of the federal government. And look, as far as the two parties go, Democrats versus Republicans, I think my policy preferences fit in with the Republican Party, capital R, a little bit, but lowercase r, a lot. Do you know what I mean by that? Like the actual party elites, people in the establishment of the party, the people in elected offices. I don't really fit in with them very much. But the people that vote for Team Red, absolutely. We say the same things. We both say we want our full complement of gun rights. We both say we want a balanced budget. We both say we want to reduce the size of government. We both say we want to reduce taxes as much as possible, maybe even eliminate the federal income tax or property taxes here in the homeland in Texas. We like school choice, if not completely eliminating the Department of Education. That's kind of both of our ideals. So I find it very disheartening to see my comrades out there on Team Red being okay with constantly growing government, with constantly increasing spending and increasing the debt limit and growing government. Does no one really want a smaller government? Because I do not register as a Democrat or Republican. I register as libertarian, not because I necessarily think libertarian is the best way to go. It's just I damn sure am not a Democrat, and Republicans are not limited government either. So I'm just want to let you know, if either party wants to balance the budget or reduce the size of the federal government, you have my vote. And so when I was asking you, what would it take for you to support Elon's America Party over the Republicans? I want to hear your list. 800-288-9227, because my list is balance the budget. That's it. A distant number 2 on my list is guns. But if you balance the budget, you already got my vote. And when I say guns, I don't mean the way the Republicans support guns. Definitely not the way the Democrats foresee their gun policy. But I want to strip what little infringements we have on our gun rights. Get rid of the background checks and the database and the serial numbers and the registration and permits and all that. No. Now, neither party really supports me on that front. But here's what I get a lot. Look, Seth already said, for your poll, we've already tried a third party. We saw how that turned out in 2020. If Joe Jorgensen hadn't run in 2020, we probably would have won via Electoral College. She was pulling votes away from Trump in all of important districts. Short answer, a third party is retarded. I'd rather him primary the rhinos out. Sorry, Seth said that, not me. But Seth sent me a Twitter X message, whatever it's called. No. Yeah, we've already tried that. We tried it in 2020. Oh, really? She got less than 3% of the vote. And this isn't what I'm talking about, to where we have just some ceremonial third party that goes out there and, oh, you cost us the election. No, I'm talking about what happened in the 1850s, where half of the country was supposed to be represented by the Whigs. And the Whigs were supposed to be representing their voters in the fact that we need to get rid of slavery. And they always had an excuse. Whether it's the Great Compromise or the Missouri Compromise of 1850, they're always like, yeah, well, we'll just do this now and we'll tackle getting rid of slavery next time. It's just not possible now. We just can't do it. Well, we can't run a third party, because then we'll lose and the Democrats will win and we'll never get rid of slavery. At least we can curtail it for, tell you what, maybe for next time they create a new state out of some of these territories out west, maybe we could block something there. But this is all we can do. And finally, the moral half of America, known as now as Republicans, put their foot down and they said, screw the Whigs. We don't care if it destroys your party. We can't support you anymore. And the Republican Party was born, and 8 years later, they had a president. So, yeah, it's going to be a painful process for the next, 4, maybe 8 years, maybe 2 election cycles. But if at the end of that we can get a balanced budget, don't you think it's worth it? Because when you did win in 2016, did you balance the budget? Or did you blow up the biggest debt and deficits of any American president in a 4-year term? When you swore off those evil third-party idiots and you won in 2000, what happened? Did you balance the budget, or did you take a balanced budget and grow the debt and deficit, grow government, double the size of the Department of Education, sign in a whole new entitlement with Medicare Part D under George W. Bush. Yeah, hey, we can't do it this time because you're going to let the Democrats win. Well, even if you win, government still grows. Even if you win, they still win. When do the people that want a smaller government get to win? And if the Republicans aren't going to do it or even try and do it, there's only one senator that voted against this in the Republican Party because it grew government. Rand Paul. Rand Paul is the only person that stands for limited government principles in the Senate. All the rest of these guys deserve to get primaried out, Republican and Democrat. Well, what about Ted Cruz? Yeah, Ted Cruz. I'm not happy with him on this vote. I'm not happy with the local representatives around here who went and voted for it. So no, all you got to do, we need to just put our foot down like we put our foot down on slavery. Stop ceding the election to the Democrats and say, well, this is all we can get now. We can't do a third party or the Democrats will win. Because how did we actually get rid of slavery? Putting our foot down and starting a third party. It was the most monumental, morally correct decision the American people have made in the entire history of our country. This is James in Mesquite. Hey, you're on WBAP. What would it take for you to support the America Party over the Republicans?
I'd like to see lobbyists somehow taken under control, get them out of there some way.
I know how.
How?
Okay, so it depends on what their industry is, but you have education lobbyists, the teachers unions, the people who make textbooks and all kinds of other parasites that go to D.C. and they lobby so they can get the policies of the Department of Education written in their favor. You know how to get rid of every single one of them? Get rid of the Department of Education. That's it. Yep. All of those lobbyists go away. Well, do the same thing for Health and Human Services. Do the same thing for the Department of Transportation. Do the same thing for all of these government agencies that aren't in the Constitution. You get rid of them. All of those lobbyists are gone. All of that power is handed back to maybe the states, if not the people. But that's not in the bill.
Yeah, I agree. And then as far as these bills go, they're so big, they're filled with so much extra stuff, nobody even knows what's in them.
Good.
And, I mean, the Congress is a big part. The Congress is a big problem with all of it. You got a president, yes, that's great, but the Congress is really the problem. There's too much. They're making too much money. They got too many side bills, and there's too many lobbyists.
All right, so James, real quick, you want government to be smaller?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you still support the Republicans? I know how you don't support the Democrats, but how do you still support the Republicans?
I don't know. Those guys are professional talkers. They tell us everything we want to see. I guess one way would be to stop watching media and start watching these congressional hearings, start watching what they're actually saying, and nobody does that. We spend our time watching news. We don't watch what they're saying and hold them to what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, well, watching what they say on the floor of the House means nothing. That's all prepared statements, and it's just as theatrical as the news itself. Look at how they vote. That's all. But thank you, James in Mesquite, for chiming in. I'm asking you the same question. What would it take for you to, if Elon makes the America Party, what would it take for him to win you over and pull your vote in from the Republicans or Democrats or whoever you're voting for now? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up on the James Show, how will the big, beautiful bill impact inflation? Hear from the Heritage Foundation next. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, homeowners. We have some questionable weather this week on the maps again. And if you have any doubts about your house, you need to check out blueribbondfw.com. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Look, I had him come check out my house. In fact, the owner, John Hopkins, he brought his own truck with his own ladder, got on my roof, went around, took some pictures. And the whole process really only took about 40 minutes. I got one of their free roof inspections. My roof passed with flying colors. I did have a rotted board in my gable, but that's just a quick little patch fix, so that only costs a few $100. But the real seller here is if you go to blueribbonroofing.com and scroll down to about halfway through the front page, they put up some new reviews just from this month on how happy people are with the job that they got from Blue Ribbon Roofing. Listen to this. Braden says, John, Tish, and Trevor, I would be lying if I said I met a better roofing company than Blue Ribbon Roofing and remodeling. Not even close. The professionalism was top notch and exceeded my expectation on all levels. Thank you, Blue Ribbon Roofing. That's what I want to hear from you. If you're worried about your roof, I want you to go to Blue Ribbon Roofing, get your free inspection. Go ahead and schedule that. And then here in about a week or so, when you get taken care of, I want you to put one of these 5-star reviews, and I want to read it on the James Show coming up. So go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. There's two things that are going to affect everyone listening here about the big, beautiful bill. Number one is the extension of the tax cuts. We are all going to be affected by that tax policy, or we would have been affected by that tax policy on January 1st if this doesn't go through. The other big one, I hate to tell you this, inflation. Inflation, it may tamp down. It may not burn as hot as it has. But when you're running $2 trillion deficits every year, it's not going to go away. And that's going to affect everybody. When we just had a cumulative 25% inflation over the last 5 years, that means every single one of us got a 25% pay cut. Every single one of us had a 25% reduction in our standard of living compared to where we otherwise would be without all that spending. And so while people, it's easy to see the certain policies. Well, what does it do about the border? What does it do about guns? Or what does it do about food stamps? The insidious hidden tax, it's going to affect everybody, inflation. My next guest, Preston Brashers from the Heritage Foundation, coming on the James Show. Now, you can go ahead and throw some bucket of water on me if I'm wrong about this, but my primary concern with this bill is inflation, Preston. Well, the scoring on this bill even admits that the deficit for next year would go up $270 billion. So I see that as upward pressure on inflation. Senate version. Preston Brashers from Heritage Foundation. Do you expect this to get through the conference committee pretty much intact, or do you expect any more big changes out of it? Yeah, who took out the part about guns? I know that's not your bailiwick. You're more of an economics type of guy, but they seem to take out some of the few things that I liked in the big beautiful bill. Yeah, the part about and a couple of other accessories, but yeah, the suppressors. Well, I appreciate your optimism on the inflation front. I wish I was as optimistic as you, but it's always good to hear the other side. This is Preston Brashers from the Heritage Foundation. Thank you very much, sir. Just watch me because I can be a little doom and gloomy at times. I just feel like we're always losing these battles on trying to make government smaller. And if both parties are for it and you want a smaller government, I just find that so frustrating. Do we ever have the chance to vote for a smaller government? We say that there's people who say they want a smaller government. They get up there, they just grow it. I have a big problem with that. 800 288 9227. 800 288 9227. I have some responses already from the question of what would it take for you to join Elon Musk America's Party, should it come to exist? What would it take to split you away from the Republican Party? Here's some people clapping back on my ideas next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Still coming up on the show, President Trump went and visited Alligator, Alcatraz this morning, and that place looks fun. That place cracks me up. We got some good audio from his visit, too, but I wanted to share with you some of the response that other listeners like yourself have had in this topic where Elon Musk has floated the idea of if the big, beautiful bill passes, he wants to start a new party, the American Party. He also floated the idea of primarying out any Republican who voted for this, which is going to be tough. It's going to be tough because 49 out of 50 senators, Republican senators, voted to pass this. So what are you're gonna primary out 98% of the Republicans in elected office? Okay. That's a bold step. It might just be easier to make a third party. And I've said that all it takes to win my vote over would be to promise to balance the budget. Balance the budget. That's it. Everything else comes secondary. But a lot of people don't agree with that. And I find this interesting because some people act like their allegiance is to the Republican Party and not to America. And I know that's not true. They just sound like it. I know if it got really, really bad that you would dump the Republican Party. I just want you to dig down in your heart and admit where that boundary is. So a Tex Reb from Twitter sent me a message, says, you said you would vote third party if they will eliminate the deficit. What if that was the only thing they did, air quotes, conservative? Would you support a fiscally conservative but everything else Democrat party? That's what concerns me about Elon leading the charge. The answer to that is yes. Yes, fiscal conservative, but everything else socially liberal? Yeah, actually, that's probably closer to libertarian than either one of the parties. That's kind of what I hope for. Not everything else Democrat party. But what you're really asking for is some of this other weird stuff. Like, would you trade men and women's sports for a balanced budget? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Men and women's sports doesn't affect my ability to buy groceries. Balancing the budget does. Men and women's sports doesn't cause my bills to go up. Not balancing the budget does. Does that make sense? Like, I don't understand what you turn off. What about abortion? Would you trade? Yes, I would trade abortion for a balanced budget. Yes. It's not a popular thing to say. It's not my preference. But if I had to choose one or the other, it's always going to be balanced budget. And how could everything else be Democrat Party? You know how many programs we would have to cut to get to a balanced budget? That's not a pro-Democrat position. No, absolutely. Absolutely. If that was the only thing they did that was conservative, I would still support it. Now, there's going to be a path too far to where, what if we balance the budget, but it's everything else is worst case scenario? Okay, it would have to be pretty hellish. I do have a limit. Seth sent me a message. He says, when he said I'd rather him primary the rhinos out, I responded to him, yeah, that would be 49 of the 50 Republican senators. Doug sent in an email. He said, love your show, James, but you're going to be on an island with this one. Keep on keeping on. I know most people are still going to disagree with it. You probably disagree with me that there's no way I would support Elon's party over Trump. Well, listen, you're not going to be supporting Elon's party over Trump. Trump's not running again. You're going to be supporting the new America's Party that wants to balance the budget, to shrink the size of government for the first time in your life, shrink the size of the federal government. And if all of the things are equal, how could you not support that? How could you still support the Republicans after this? There's not going to be a Trump there. So keep the feedback coming in. I try and be a little graceful in this because it's the easy thing for me to do is just say what I think is going to be popular with the people who listen to WBAP. And yes, I support everything Trump does, and I support the big, beautiful bill no matter what. I just want to get a win for my party and my team, and I just like to stick my thumb in the eye of old Team Blue and the libtards out there. But no, at some point, your principles have to come into play. The thing that is just killing me and my family the most is inflation. I make about the same amount of money I do this year as I did 5 years ago. A little bit more, but not too much. but I have a lower standard of living than I did 5 years ago. You probably do too. Because although my income went up, it didn't go up 25%, but prices did. My paycheck went up a little bit, less than 25% for sure, probably more than 10%. But Chipotle went up 15%. The grocery store went up 20%. The purchasing power of your dollar declined 25%. So yeah, look. This is a tough one to admit. This is a tough place to admit. Like, how far would the Republican Party have to go before you'd abandon them? And you know why it's a tough thing to admit? Because the chances are they've already gone past that. You just don't want to give up your team jersey. You have to set a boundary. How far? How bad does their spending have to get? Does $5 trillion in new debt not bother you? Raising the debt ceiling $5 trillion? You're really okay with that? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I look forward to all the emails and messages. I read them all, even if I don't read them all on the air or respond to them all. Coming up next, are you going on a trip for 4th of July weekend? Here's some tips on how to save money for your trip, but more specifically with these short-term rentals. There's some tips that you're going to learn from Alex from Bankrate coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Are you going on a trip for the 4th of July weekend, or you still got time to get a vacation in before the kids go back to school? Here in about a month and a half. Can that hurry up, by the way, and get them kids back in school? You know, we always have the common topic of how can you save money on your summer vacation. But in this one, we have Alex Gailey from Bankrate coming on to get a little more specific with us and talk about how do you save money on this new thing of short-term rentals. Alex, welcome back to the James Show. So short-term rentals, Airbnb, Vrbo, this is what we're talking about? Yeah, well, South Padre Island is our tropical island here in Texas. I can understand how that would jump up. Okay, so how do you take advantage of that? You just have to go to South Padre in the winter? So for this year, it might be too late unless you were thinking about a magical vacation where you're swept away to beautiful Mesquite or something. Just kidding. Well, the Grand Canyon's just a big ditch anyway, overrated. But yeah, so I guess for the Texas version of that, instead of going to Galveston proper, you'd go down to like Jamaica Beach, just further down the island. Alex Gailey from Bankrate, what is shoulder season? All right, Alex Gailey from Bankrate. Tell people the difference between Airbnb and Vrbo, and do you have a preference? Alex Gailey from Bankrate, are travel agents still a thing? Well, I'm not good at planning or budgeting, but I never let that stop me. Thank you very much, Alex Gailey from Bankrate. In fact, the Parker system is find out where you want to go, get in your car, start driving that direction, and then look it up on your phone on the way there. If you don't know how to get there, where you're staying or whatever, just as last minute as possible. Probably not recommended by our friends over at Bankrate, but hopefully that helps you out and you have a little extra fun on your 4th of July vacation, because some of us don't get to have one. Thank you very much. That's all right. And that's not a complaint. I'll be doing a live show on Friday for those of you who are going to be stuck working like the rest of us. Next on the James Show. Now, this is finally a positive story I can talk about. President Trump visited Alligator, Alcatraz this morning, and the more I see of this place, the more I love it. And the more I hear from the people who are complaining about this place, the more I love it even harder. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Trump's visit to Alligator, Alcatraz, next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We're on Diddy Watch right now. The live cameras from a couple of networks are trained on the outside of the Diddy courthouse because they don't let cameras on the inside. Whoever's making all these chalk drawings on the grocery bags is probably furiously sketching out the situation as we speak. Don't ask me why all of the sketch artists have to draw on grocery bags. It doesn't make any sense. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know why they all chose the medium. Hey, what about notebook paper? What about typing paper? What about sketch paper? No, we're going to stick with these brown grocery bags and we're going to use chalk. Really, chalk? You're not going to like do something in like Microsoft Paint? You can't do this in pencil. You can't do it in map colors. It has to be chalk on a grocery bag. Got it. So whenever they come out and make the announcement on some of these charges, well, this could be a monumental day that we'll all remember forever, or it could be just an eye roll. Well, another bad guy got away with doing a bunch of stuff that you and I couldn't get away with. But the charges he's facing right now: racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. Well, sounds like that's kind of open and shut because there was some prostitution that happened and some of it happened across state lines. So, we'll as soon as it happens, we'll hit pause on the DVR. I'll stop what I'm doing. We'll go to that audio and you can hear it just as soon as it happens. My favorite story of the day, though, is this Alligator Alcatraz. And Trump went down there this morning, and Alligator Alcatraz is something I didn't hear about until last week. The more I hear about it, the more I love it. If you're not familiar with the story, a new detention facility has been opened up in Florida. It's in the middle of the Everglades. I believe it's only accessible through a little airstrip. But in the picture that I saw, there was a road outside of it. Does that not go anywhere? Neither here nor there. It's in the middle of the Everglades, a good 60 miles or so outside of civilization, swamp on all four sides. And that's considered to be such a deterrent to escape that they don't even have a fence around the prison. They just have the swamp. And I thought to myself, what a good place for a detention center. Sounds fantastic. Trump went and visited this morning. He seemed to like what he saw at Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah. It's the idea that if dogs illegal immigrants escape, they just get eaten by an alligator or a snake or something. I guess that's the concept. This is not a nice business. I guess that's the concept. If the snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay?
Oh, this audio is just too bad. I hope you don't mind if I cut it off. But he was telling a funny story there about how to get away from an alligator. He says you're supposed to, instead of running a straight line, you're supposed to zigzag, and that helps your chances by 1%. So he was obviously telling a joke there. And then there's a bunch of fact checkers going on there. And that's a myth. What an idiot. You don't really zigzag run away from an alligator. Stupid. He was making a joke. People calm down. He was having a good time. Ron DeSantis has been having a good time. And I've been having a good time. And, I kind of like the idea a little bit just based on the merits of what Trump and DeSantis have said, what I've seen with my own eyes and the videos and the pictures and the stories. But I like it more and more and more when I see who's complaining against it. Not just who's complaining against it, but what are they saying? Are they making rational arguments against Alligator Alcatraz? Oh, no. Not at all.
I need somebody to tell me that I'd not just walk upstairs and see a clip on the news talking about Alligator Alcatraz, a prison camp that they're building in the Everglades in Florida to throw immigrants into. Truly, what the is happening when they're in the middle of construction of a prison camp in the Everglades to throw immigrants into, which by the looks of it, of what I saw on the screen, looked just like several rows of cargo shipping containers. They're building a ton of shipping containers that they're going to throw human beings into because they're immigrants. If that wasn't already horrifying enough to throw human beings into containers, Florida had to Florida and be like, you know what, I'll do you one better. Not only are we going to make this disgusting prison camp, but we're going to put it right in the Everglades next to all the gators and joyfully refer to it as Alligator Alcatraz. No, Absolutely not. Just make it stop. Make it stop.
What is wrong with that? So the hyperbolic complaints about Alligator Alcatraz actually escalated over the weekend, and a new talking point emerged. Alligator Alcatraz isn't a illegal immigrant detention center. It's a concentration camp. Do you know that? It's Alligator Auschwitz is what they're calling it. So yeah, that's the new talking point. This is a concentration camp. Hey, you're concentrating people in these camps. Yeah, that's what every prison is. That's what your previous presidents have done. You think Joe Biden didn't keep some illegal immigrants in some sort of detention camp at some point where they called concentration camps then? Was it Auschwitz then? No, just when Trump does it. Here's another one, and luckily this girl doesn't cuss, but she's going on the concentration camp theme.
I will be in jail if I see somebody wearing an Alligator Alcatraz shirt or any type of merch. It is a concentration camp. And using that language matters. It is a concentration camp, and we're acting like it's an amusement park. It's disgusting.
So I guess the moral of the story is I need to get an Alligator Alcatraz shirt. That sounds pretty cool too. That's a good idea. Thank you for posting that video. Angry person in her car trying to make some significant policy statements. I love the idea of Alligator Alcatraz. I think that's perfect. That's great. Don't have to worry about escapes. We have a place to send them to where they will be safe as long as they stay in their shipping container, if that's what the shipping containers are even for. Do you not care about the well-being of American citizens in prison? Like, have you not had a relative in prison? It's a pretty miserable experience. You know, there's still some prisons down here in the South, in Texas, that don't have air conditioning. You worried about them? No? Just about these ones you've been told to be concerned about? What a robot these people are. What an absolute thoughtless, brainless herd of sheep these people are. They act like, oh, well, we're just concerned about the well-being and the conditions of these prisoners in Alligator Alcatraz. Dude, there's prisoners all over America full of American citizens that have some pretty miserable conditions. You never cared about them? You know, it's the same way with the people going to El Salvador to go get this MS-13 gangbanger out, or going to Delaney Hall to the ICE detention center in New Jersey and assaulting an officer trying to make sure these guys have great living conditions, or the multiple trips to the Tacoma ICE facility. People, did you not care before Alligator Alcatraz about the poor conditions some of our prisoners, or do you only care about the non-American prisoners? It's the damnedest thing. And the more they complain about it, the more I like it. The more they call it a concentration camp, the more I know we're doing the right thing. All right, coming up next, Jeremy Rosenthal, the legal analyst, is going to be on the James Show. I got all kinds of questions for him, including what's with the Carmelo Anthony public defender situation? How is that a thing when he has a $500,000 legal defense fund? Well, find out next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and the legal analyst of the James Show, at least informally speaking. It's the great Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. Welcome back, Jeremy Rosenthal. We had a bunch of questions from yesterday's show left over for you. Can I start with the Carmelo Anthony situation? Okay, so I'm trying to figure this out. Head scratcher. Me as a layman, didn't go to law school. He filed for indigent status last week and was awarded indigent status, meaning he gets a public defender. Now, how does that work out that a guy with a $500,000 defense fund is found that he is allowed to get a defense at a taxpayer expense? Well, I was expecting a Gideon case reference there, Jeremy Rosenthal. Well, I think the big draw on being a radio host on a lawyer is we don't make nearly as much money. So I think that's why I chose this profession over yours. But that seems to be kind of a big loophole there. You don't consider the fact that he has a $500,000 defense fund. Okay, I don't guess we're going to fix that on today's show. The other side of that is who was the head of the question yesterday? You know what? I took a note and I said I would ask Jeremy Rosenthal tomorrow. This is Jessica from Lone Oak. See, I'm not lying. She said, okay, if Carmelo is going the public defender route, could he be setting up a situation where he still gets the lawyer he wants? It's just going to be a pro bono case. Well, the sort of non-legal aspect to this situation is a lot of us are questioning, how is the mom allowing this to happen? How is the mom not taking every dime that she's getting from the public defense fund and not saying, we're going to go out there, we're going to get you Johnny Cochran, we're going to get you the Kardashian dad, we're going to get you the best legal defense team money can buy because we got $500,000. It just seems like we're missing a piece that she say, no, just go get the public defender and I'll keep this $500,000 over here. Well, that's cool. So you're looking at the court paperwork right now. All right. All right, we're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal. He's a legal analyst on the James Show from TexasDefenseFirm.com. We are awaiting the results of the Diddy trial. And of all the spaghetti noodles that were thrown at the wall, it looks like only 5 have stuck. And we're waiting on the returns, or at least that's what the reporting says, that we're waiting on the return of 5 charges, 5 counts against Diddy. 1 for racketeering conspiracy, and then 2 for sex trafficking by force, and 2 for transportation to engage in prostitution. And from what I've heard, that's the transportation to engage in prostitution and sex trafficking by force kind of locked down. All right. I think I got the gist of that. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. I appreciate your lawyer brain on the show again. All right. We're expecting the results of the Diddy trial. The 4 counts, at least, should have a decision that might be announced before the end of the James Show. So stick around for that. If not, if he doesn't pop in, there's a great story about a local student who won a national history contest. I'm going to tell you the heartwarming story coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Have you heard of National History Day? Have you heard of the National History Day contest? No? Well, why is that? It's a national contest. Kind of a big deal in some people's eyes. But why are you just now hearing about this on my show? Well, you know what? To sort of prime the pump here, let's go to this cool report from WFAA TV yesterday, where a local student here in North Texas won the National History Day contest.
Oh, yeah, that's a very big deal.
For at least a decade, the students at Grapevine Colleyville ISD have been on the wrong side of history.
Oh, this is a group.
History teacher Chad Hannon says no one from the district has ever qualified for the National History Day contest, one of the most prestigious history contests in America.
No student has ever made it.
And when he explained that to this year's class, one student made a bold prediction.
I went in my mom's room and said, Mom, I'm going to win. I'm going to go to nationals and win.
Cassidy McCarthy, a soon-to-be 8th grader at Grapevine Colleyville's virtual school, iUniversity Prep, had never even heard of the contest when she started researching the West Virginia mine wars.
Yes.
For her project, Cassidy built a website detailing how 100 years ago, mine workers went to war, literal war, with mine operators fighting for fair pay and safe working conditions.
They finally got all their rights.
She combed through archives, interviewed descendants, and compiled sources.
I wrote a master's thesis, and that's a master's thesis. How can a 7th grader do that kind of work, you know?
Judges at the state competition were equally impressed.
I was blown away. I'd never heard of this before.
The top 2 from state advance, and Cassidy got second.
I don't know why yellow, but...
Exciting, but also humbling.
Getting second at state, did you still believe you'd win nationals?
I went into nationals saying, I'm going to try to get 4th.
After state, Cassidy took the judges' critiques, made improvements, and hoped for the best.
Happy History Day, everybody!
But at nationals, the announcement came, and Cassidy didn't win 4th place.
Coming in first.
She won
Cassidy McCarthy.
the whole thing.
And she's like, should we run to the stage? And I was like, yeah, we should run to the stage. Let's go.
The first student from the district to not only reach the national competition, but win.
All right.
An historic achievement, but just a precursor to what she's planning next.
This morning I looked up how many times this person has won in a row, and she won 3 years in a row, so I'm going to try to win 4 years in a row.
If history is any indication, her future is bright.
If there's anybody that can do it, it's Cassidy.
Great.
All right, so what a beautiful story there from WFAA TV. Wow, heartwarming stuff. So glad to hear it. The next question is, why do academics get so little attention in our education system? And I know you've had this conversation in some form or fashion, but I'm going to try and come at it with a new angle because I don't want you to just hear this and go on about your life after the show and just do the status quo here. Because look, here's how it usually confronts you. This topic is, why do we pay so much attention to football? It's not even important. We could do all this money that go to other programs. We spend all this money on football. It's not even important. Okay, usually it's a gripe about football. And football for sure. That is the one thing we celebrate the most as a community, as a whole, as a society, as a people group. The one thing that you're expected to and probably do attend the most when it comes to the educational system is football games. And sometimes it's for the players, sometimes it's for the kids in the band or the cheerleaders or whatever the factor is. But none of it's academic. There's nothing academic about playing football or being one of the cheerleaders or really marching around with the trumpet in your hand in a square. Fun, great skills to learn, not trying to throw shade on it. But in the point of, our education system, academics at some point. And it's not just football, though. This is why I'm trying to broaden it out. I don't want this to make this a complaint about football or even sports, because other sports get support with fans in the stands. They get fundraisers. There's athletic boosters, concession stand. They sell T-shirts and hats and merch, It'll say Bug Tussle Football or Bug Tussle Playoffs 2025. Well, not Bug Tussle, but real schools with good football teams. So there's even news coverage. You'll see highlights in the news. Think about, I just played you a report on WFAA about an academic achievement. Think about how rare that is compared to football coverage in the news. What is it like for every minute of academic achievement that is praised in media? You get like 1,000 minutes of football. That add up all the sports. And then it comes down to like even some of the lesser celebrated programs that do get outside community support. Like think about theater. They get a little attention. They get attendance. It's not like a football game, but they get some attendance. They sell tickets, some merch. They have fundraisers for these guys. Maybe sometimes they'll be in the news like, hey, you know, some high school put on a play, or maybe someone went and danced in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, something to that effect. But think of how little compared to all of these other non-academic things that get our attention in school. Think of how little attention we as a society pay to actual academics in the education system. That is messed up. You know, I have to explain to people that I was in academic decathlon in high school here in Texas. To people who actually went to high school in Texas, oh, we have academic decathlon. You didn't know that? Now, we don't have it at all the schools, but all the bigger schools and medium-sized schools and large schools, most of them have an academic decathlon team. Most of the people at my school didn't even know it existed. That's how little attention it got. That's messed up. If we go through school and we start cutting out what's most important, and by most important, I don't mean the one that's most celebrated or has the biggest ticket sales, the ones that are, I don't know, kind of fulfilling the mission statement of what should be any education system is, I don't know, education. We would cut football first. We would cut theater. We would cut the music programs and all the art and stuff. And the last thing we should cut is academics. The most important thing is academics. The thing we should be focusing on the most is the thing we're focusing on the least. And I think WFAA did a great job giving this girl some attention for achieving something with her brain. Not her body, not her art, but her brain. This is super important because other kids out there, they see this and they're like, well, hey, if I would like to get some positive feedback from society at large, the adults around me, namely my parents, maybe I should do more with my brain. We need to, don't just say this. You can still go to football games. You can still go to your kids' theater plays. But can we do this too? Can you celebrate academics too, at least in your own house with your kids or grandkids? Make sure they know that's a big deal. Ask them if they're in it. If they're in it, ask them to give you details about it. How'd you do in your last UIL competition? How'd you do in your National History Day contest? How'd you do at Academic Decathlon? I know I'm not going to fix it today, but a local student won a National History contest. I think that's great that we give it as much attention as possible. And really, when we talk about what can we do to make education better in America, here's one thing. We can give positive reinforcement to education. I know, it's a controversial take. I know, I like sports too. It's hard to break ourselves of the habit, but we can at least try to do better. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. If you got any fixes for the school system, I would love to hear your theory on why academics get so little attention in education. How do we make it sexy? I'll throw you out my theories coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How do we make academics more sexy? How do we make it to where we pay more attention to them? Well, part of the problem that academics has is it doesn't package itself and present itself well for an audience. So part of my criticism isn't just for, the community. We're dumb. We only like dumb things like people smashing together to play football or win a sport. No, part of it, the academics have to take the blame themselves, because can you buy a ticket and be a spectator when it comes to taking the SAT? Absolutely not. Would you want to? Sounds pretty damn boring. So part of my solution isn't a challenge to the community at large. It's a challenge to the academics, the other eggheads out there that would like a little more attention, a little more praise, a little more positive reinforcement for actually pursuing the whole point of education, and that's learning. So what do we do about that? Well, there are some academically themed contests that seem to be somewhat effective. We need to incorporate them in schools. Have you seen the TV show BattleBots? I don't even remember what channel that used to come on, but my kids loved BattleBots, and I loved watching it with them. And what BattleBots is these teams get together and they make these little robots and they put them in like the arena with little obstacles and whatnot, and they have to destroy the opposition's robot. And so each robot has like a little weapon on it, whether it's a hammer or something that'll flip you over or a blowtorch or something to that effect. And that was a great way to highlight the prowess of a smart idea, of a good engineer, of a well-executed machine plan. BattleBots, can we do that in schools? Because that's something we would all watch. That's something the news would cover. That's something that would possibly sell some tickets or get some merch or get some attention. It would make academics look cool. Code Launch. You ever heard of Code Launch? Friend of the show, Jason Taylor. He's a local guy who has, it's like Shark Tank. It's like a TV show Shark Tank, but it's for tech startups. And he's done it in a way where it's a contest where you submit your ideas in each region, and the winners from each region go into the final. And the final last year was over here at, I believe it was that Gillies or something. That's a cool way to set it up. Sort of a Shark Tank-like competition where people pitch their ideas, and that's something people would watch. That's something that could be made into a TV show. That's something that the news could report on. Drone racing. That's kind of self-explanatory, where you make your own drone. You got to fly it through these hoops and race it against other people in a test of time. Rocket contest. Let's see which high school can make a rocket that goes the highest. You think we can make one that goes a mile high, 2 miles high? You think we can make one that reaches the ionosphere? Wouldn't that be cool to watch? Let's put a little GoPro camera on the end of it, see what happens. And I think the easiest one would be a quiz show setup. It could be a radio show. It could be a TV show. It could be an online streaming show. It could be a show that's put together by the media department of each high school. But it's Jeopardy. You know how easy it would be to make academics and, being smart look cool? If there's a contest where you and the other eggheads get your little beeper over there and you're asked questions, and then in front of everyone, you get to demonstrate your prowess as an academic. Not your prowess as an offensive lineman or your prowess as a power forward. Oh, look, he can do a backwards dunk. No. He knows his Byzantine emperors. I think that would look cool. Randy and Leonard, you're on WBAP. How do we make academics cool again?
James, academics is absolutely important, and that's the one thing you have to have in order to be able to run computers and do anything you need to do. You have to have the basic knowledge of all that stuff. But you're talking about making it cool to do that kind of stuff. You're leaving out one aspect of the academics that you need to think about. And
okay.
It's not sports and things like that. It's the vocational programs that we have, because not everybody's going to go to college and sell insurance. So you have to do something in high school to help them have a type of career when they leave high school that they can do something in, which would be, ag mechanics. My son and his daughter, his wife, do ag mechanics here in Leonard, and they build projects, and those projects go to these major shows and are judged by different companies like Prefert and people that build all different kinds of things. Robotics, they do robotics and stuff too.
Love that.
Different segments of, and all those kind of things are judged. And then we had one young man that designed a headgate, and Prefert, company that designs and builds cattle handling equipment, sold that for $100,000.
Yeah.
So, your vocational programs are so important now in high schools because of, everybody just can't can't make that way to college and have that money to get to college. But, you can go do, and I'm not putting anybody down or anything like that, but you can go to truck driving school, or you can go be an electrician, or you can go be a master plumber. And all those things make good money, and they're all productive parts of our society. So
agreed.
I think that, academics is absolutely the most important thing you need to do all those things. You can't pour concrete unless you know what pi or square are, so things
Yeah,
like
true,
that,
true.
you have to be able to read a tape measure and do those things and everything. And all those things are taught in our schools, but they're just not, they're not a type of deal that gets a lot of attention, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, you're right, and I think one of the keys to this is make something like a competition. We love competitions in Texas. Everything's a competition to us. I think we really need to change our mindset on some of this stuff, because these are the people who are going to be carrying society on their backs in 20, 40 years. The people that are going to make the innovation that drive our economy forward, the people that are going to make the innovations, the inventions, the changes, the advancements that's going to keep us ahead of the Japans and the China and the Germanys of the world. These are there's just a small, tiny percentage of elites that make almost all of the innovations in our society. The rest of us are just little worker bee consumers who are happy to benefit and ride their coattails. But I'll be damned if we don't encourage that. That's not going to keep happening on its own. If we keep encouraging kids, hey, you need to be really good at sports, you really need to be really good at football, or maybe you should be an actress or a YouTube influencer or one of these superfluous things, that's not going to be good for society in the long term. I like the idea of trying to make academics cool. I don't know if we can make academics cool again. Was it ever cool? But we can try and make it cool. Let's do it with contests. All right, thank you very much for hanging out on The James Show. I'm James Parker. Coming up next, the great one, Mark Levin. Don't forget about my little podcast when you're looking for a way to kill time. Remember, The James Show podcast lives on WBAP.com, WBAP app. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.